I want to share with you a little bit about the physiology of shame. When we understand that shame is functioning as a part of our biology to keep us safe and moving in the direction of greater well-being, we can at least begin to let go of the shame about our shame. So you know what it's like to have a feeling that you call shame, either some episode that triggers it or this lingering chronic feeling of shame. And you probably also have had the experience of then feeling ashamed that you feel shame. I'd like to see if shining a light on what is happening physiologically will support your understanding of what's happening to you when you feel shame, and then thereby helping to alleviate some of the shame about shame. To begin with, your body and mind are really aspects of yourself that we separate to conveniently talk about ourselves because that separation intuitively feels correct. But really, there is no distinction between the body and the mind because, well, there is no such thing as a mind without a body. The body-mind is part of a complex system of being you. And your system follows principles of complex systems theory. You don't need to know all that I mean by that, but I'll share a couple of principles about how your system works, and then we'll take a look about how that influences your shame. So what I want to share at this point about complex systems is that they are, one, constantly oscillating, and two, constantly auto-organizing. Right? So let me first talk about these 2 points before I explain how it relates to shame. So one, your system is constantly oscillating. It is always adjusting to the environment in a bipolar configuration. Your system is either going up or going down, activating or deactivating, accelerating or decelerating. There is nothing static about you being you. This is easy to see in the body as the inhale and the exhale, or what we understand about the expansion and contraction of cells or muscle fibers, or the polarization and depolarization of nerve signals. And these are just some examples in the body that follows this bipolar configuration. And everything in your body, including the sensations and thoughts that are generated within you, are oscillating in this way. So I'll get to how that's related to shame in this moment, but at the very least, we know that whatever we are experiencing in one moment, whatever state we are in, is going to oscillate, it's going to change. So number two, auto-organization. Your system predictably moves towards pleasure and away from pain. It is responding to everything in the environment and automatically adjusting with the attempt to organize around what increases life and well-being versus what decreases life. Your overall system is taking in all of the inputs from around you and within you and is generating and maintaining order in an attempt to continue existence. And it is doing this autonomously, like of itself, for itself. Even so, however, there are ways that we can support our systems to more reliably move towards that which supports our life. In other words, there are ways that we can use our will, or and we can choose to create inputs into our systems that will enhance and support life. Okay, so what does this have to do with your shame? I know this can get a little bit complicated, but I'm going to give you some examples, so hang in there with me. The experience of what we call the emotion shame is an affect, which means that you are affected by some kind of input. You are touched in a way that causes you to try to make sense out of the input that you encounter. And the input your system experiences, well, it's meaningful, or in some way like relevant, it's salient to the maintenance of your existence. So that means that the experience of shame, which is an affect, is also for the maintenance of your existence and well-being. When you are having an experience that is activating in a pleasant way, this would be the kind of experience that is generating curiosity or interest or excitement. This activating experience, this system going up, is going to hit a point when it's enough. Like just like the inhale. You inhale, and at some point you've had enough of the inhale, and the chemical changes in your body prompt you to exhale. Likewise, if you are having an experience that is deactivating in a pleasant way, this would be the kind of experience that is generating joy, enjoyment, contentment. This deactivating experience is going to hit a point when it's enough. So just like the inhale, you will exhale, and at some point you've had enough of the exhale, and the chemical changes in your body will prompt you to inhale again. Right? This is the autonomous nature of things. You've had some activation, curiosity, interest, or excitement, and then it's done, and you're ready for some deactivation, joy, enjoyment, or contentment. And that oscillation, that shift, is meant to happen at just the right time. Likewise, when you've had enough deactivation, then the activation that turns your attention towards what is curious or interesting or exciting again emerges. So throughout life, on the pleasant side of things, you are oscillating between curiosity, interest, and excitement on the one hand, and joy, enjoyment, contentment on the other. So these words, they're meant to really kind of suggest a spectrum. Like these words signal levels of intensity of these states. All right, here we come to the shame part. Anytime there is some kind of input into your system that prematurely interrupts this oscillatory pattern, causes a state of suspension. Like this, it's an interruption, and it can be a split second, it can last a lot longer, but that interruption is a physiological experience, a body-based experience. And it's this physiological body-based experience that we begin to learn, at a young age, actually, we learn to label as the emotion shame. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Imagine that you are at a party and you see somebody on the other side of the room that you are really interested in talking to. You feel the impulse to move towards them, and you begin to make your way through, winding around people towards that person with some sense of anticipation. You might be thinking about how you're going to greet them or what you're going to say. And in that moment, you will have a slight increase in heartbeat, in breathing rate, temperature, like all slight signs of activation. All probably really slight unless you're really nervous, but that level of activation is going to be there nonetheless in your system. There will be those physiological changes. But let's say, as you're walking towards this person, getting closer, somebody else gets to that person first and then starts talking to them. Maybe even, you can tell they're going to be there for a while. So it's not appropriate to butt in. In that moment, you will have this arrest, this stopping, like a freezing in a way, as your system now has new input to contend with. In that moment, you may have a sinking feeling in your stomach. You may feel your body kind of just, let down and just kind of get, like just not as, confident and upright, right? It might just kind of slump a little bit. You might find yourself looking down or away, maybe even holding your breath a bit, maybe even thinking kind of stops for a moment, all for like maybe a split second, maybe longer, but these are all physiological experiences of what can be called shame. Your curiosity, interest, and excitement didn't get to reach the state of fulfillment. Like you weren't done. You weren't satisfied in your activation because you didn't get to talk to the person. And when that happens, you experience the physiology of shame. Now, often what can follow then are negative thoughts. Like a thought such as why that other person might be a better person than you, or the person you wanted to talk to really wouldn't want to talk to you anyways, or, any number of possibilities. But those are shame thoughts about yourself. And what I'm saying is that that moment when your curiosity, interest, or excitement didn't hit a point of satisfaction such that you would naturally, automatically oscillate and then just bask in the enjoyment or contentment of the experience, you feel the physiology of shame. Now, that can show up in so many different ways. I've already mentioned some. The body tends to have some patterns, such as the slumping of shoulders, looking down or away, a sinking feeling internally, like, you lost the wind in your sails. Like all of these are these body-based sensations. But it doesn't stop there. The physiology then generates images and thoughts as well that will match this interrupted state of curiosity, interest, and excitement. And the same thing can happen when your system is deactivating, when it's feeling joy or enjoyment or contentment. For example, let's see, imagine that you are enjoying an ice cream cone on a hot day after a, long, full afternoon of swimming. You just got your favorite flavor of ice cream. For me, it's chocolate chip mint. For you, whatever flavor it is for you, that's your favorite. And there you are, you're licking the ice cream cone, enjoying its coolness and its sweetness, its richness, because, well, you're hungry after a day of hanging out, swimming. You're enjoying the flavor, everything about it. And then you're just in the middle, as you're enjoying it, like it suddenly falls off the cone and hits the pavement before you were done. Believe it or not, that too will elicit a moment of shame. It may not be that big of a deal. After all, it's just an ice cream cone. You can get another one if you wish. Nonetheless, your deactivation cycle, your enjoyment and contentment was prematurely interrupted. And you will likely have similar physiological experiences as the first example, like this little collapse, a slump of the shoulders, the face losing muscle tone. And what's crazy is that often negative thoughts about yourself will be quick to emerge in even such a situation as this. Like, for instance, you might say to yourself, why weren't you paying attention? Or, you're really too fat. You shouldn't be eating ice cream anyways. Or, why can't I just enjoy something without me doing something to mess it up? Like those kinds of thoughts, right? The thoughts are what happens after the physiology is changed in your system. The physiological shift happens first. And as you can imagine, the level of intensity of the shame physiology depends on the level of the activation or deactivation. So obviously, the greater the intensity of the activation, like if you're up in the excitement realm of things, or the greater the intensity of the deactivation, right? Like you're way up in joy, the greater the feelings of shame when these are prematurely interrupted and can't oscillate autonomously, right? So the question is, why would your physiology behave this way? So what I believe is that what is happening biologically before the thoughts emerge is a way of moving your attention away from whatever it was that you were interested in or enjoying, and away from whatever it was that even caused the interruption, so that your attention can shift and you can begin the seeking process or be able to find something else that would be pleasurable, something else that would elicit curiosity, interest, or excitement, or joy, enjoyment, contentment. So if your system didn't get what it was after, it will momentarily shut down until a new opportunity arises for that, which would create well-being or the maintenance of life. When these kinds of interruptions happen repeatedly in one's individual history, they often happen in relationships. And if they happen without repair, and if they happen often enough without repair, It can become a trait of chronic states of low energy, no motivation, stuckness, and what some people call a freezy state, right? So when there is a history of this, it can be challenging for you to safely feel activation in the pleasurable side of oscillation, or safely feel deactivation in a pleasurable way. And that is chronic shame. The system has learned for its well-being to reduce activation and deactivation along the pleasant side of things. It may still do activation in unpleasant ways, and that is fighting or fleeing, or it may do deactivation in unpleasant ways, like freezing or fawning. But it's challenging in such a situation for the oscillation to happen in pleasant ways, for activation to be easy and pleasant, and then deactivation to be easy and pleasant. And that is the state of stuckness that people feel, and that is often the experience of chronic shame. All right, I'm gonna pause here. Hopefully I haven't fully confused you. If this is new to you, you may want to listen to this again and pause at different points to let your mind grasp it. When you pause, you can try to explain what I said in your own words to yourself, which will help it to make more sense to you. But more than understanding the details, what I hope you can take away with you is that whatever shame you are feeling is a physiological state that has been there for your well-being, at least initially, even if it feels pretty bad. What I want you to hear is that the physiology is driving things here. When you feel shame about your shame, it's because you think that you, yourself, your psychology, your character is what is causing you to feel shame. But I'm here to say that the spontaneous shame-based thoughts that emerge about yourself, and the shame-based, sensations or affect or even imaginations are being generated from your biology. Now, there are things we can do to help shift what your biology generates, and that's what I love to share with people. So hopefully you'll keep following along so that you too can become free of chronic shame to live a life of greater ease.